प्रधानमंत्री जी, जब से ऑक्सीजन का संकट शुरू हुआ है मेरे फ़ोन बजते रहते हैं। कभी कोई अस्पताल कहता है कि 3 घंटे की ऑक्सीजन बची है, कभी कोई अस्पताल कहता है कि 2 घंटे की ऑक्सीजन बची है। हम कारण जानने की कोशिश करते हैं तो पता चलता है कि पीछे किसी राज्य ने दिल्ली के लिए ऑक्सीजन लाने वाले ट्रक को रोक रखा है।
अभी भी हमारा भी ऑक्सीजन नहीं मिला। ऑक्सीजन चाहते हैं हम लोग, कोविड का इंजेक्शन चाहते हैं, हम वैक्सीन चाहते हैं कि लोगों का वैक्सीन मिले, लेकिन कुछ नहीं है देश में, सब बाहर में भेज दिया।
इस विषय पर तेजी से और पूरी संवेदनशीलता के साथ काम किया जा रहा है। केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकारें, प्राइवेट सेक्टर, सभी की पूरी कोशिश है कि हर जरूरतमंद को ऑक्सीजन मिले।
Tamil Nadu and Kerala say that they have excess oxygen, so they're ready to share it with other states which perhaps need it more. Mamata BANERJEE has said oxygen produced in West Bengal is going to be used for the people of West Bengal alone. I'm Pallavi Ghosh. I'm at this week's One Take asked this question: does the federal spirit actually interfere with the COVID crisis management as far as the country is concerned? Now let's talk about the present situation, because I'm right over here in Kolkata and I'm seeing what is happening. Suddenly COVID has made an entry into the poll fray. We discussed this last week. But when she's now attacking the BJP, she's also accusing it of having a stepmotherly treatment. Here she's standing up for her friend Arvind Kejriwal and she's making the point that BJP rules states like the Gujarat, like in Uttar Pradesh, how there's complete chaos. Cremations are taking place in large scale and numbers are being hidden. And in fact, she's also accused them of putting up tin sheets to hide those cremations because they don't want the truth to be out. But beyond that, she's talking about the fact that oxygen, which is, for example, produced in West Bengal, is going to be used only for the Bengalis or the people of West Bengal. She also now makes a charge against the central leadership, saying that there is a deliberate attempt now being made, which many of the factories which actually produce this oxygen in West Bengal are now being told to stop their supply to the state and divert it to Uttar Pradesh. This is, I think, the prime or stark example of how the center and the states, when they are ruled by two political parties, when they are caught in a huge confrontation, especially during election time, very often this compromises your united management of fight against the COVID crisis. This also raises a question which I'm asking this week, which all of you are responding to. Is there too much of federalism? And does the federal spirit actually interfere with our COVID management? The Arvind Kejriwal's consistent complaint against the centre is this. And in press conference after press conference and in tweets after tweet, he and his colleagues and party colleagues also are making the point that how they are getting a stepmotherly treatment from the BJP. They make those SOS calls for oxygen which are not heard. How Haryana, for example, a BJP ruled state, is actually stopping the supply of oxygen which is required in Delhi. That's his complaint. Recently also we saw, for example, when the Prime Minister was having a meeting with the chief ministers, he went live, which again became a big issue. The BJP in its defense has actually rattled off statistics to show that how they have been providing all the facilities in terms of beds, in terms of oxygen plants, but they have been left misused or underused by Arvind Kejriwal, and therefore the state government cannot walk away. Cut to the earlier times. Yes, it's a fact that the crisis which we are seeing as far as the COVID is concerned is unprecedented in recent times. India has gone through national level crisis, but it has not affected the length and breadth of the country as COVID has. For example, the floods in Tamil Nadu on the eve of the state elections when Jayalalitha was alive. She had dashed off a letter to the then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh complaining about Finance Minister Chidambaram, who happened to be from her state, and she said that he was deliberately stopping funds for flood relief to Tamil Nadu because he had a personal problem with her. Again, it became a full-blown controversy. She goes on to win the elections, but she won those elections on this point. This whole argument that North India ruled states or North India ruled people and rulers were actually targeting a southern state like Tamil Nadu. That became her winning strategy. Similar situation we saw as far as tsunami was concerned. I had gone to cover, for example, the tsunami in parts of Tamil Nadu as well as in Andamans and Nicobar as well. At that point of time also we would see constant calls, because I remember I was traveling with the then Home Minister Shivraj Patil. There were constant calls coming in from Jayalalitha's office. There were calls which were coming in from other state chief ministers making the point that you need to give us more money. Why are you not giving us the money just because it has not affected Delhi or the northern states or your core constituencies? At that point of time, this whole centre versus states were fighting with each other, and it ended up becoming an election issue. Pretty much similar to what it has become now in this battle for Bengal. Mamata Banerjee has made COVID mismanagement, what she calls it, as a central election issue. The reason why she's doing it, because she wants to put a dent into that argument which is being pushed by the BJP that a double engine ki sarkar works. What's a double engine ki sarkar? Well, the same party in power at the centre and at the state level. The BJP points out the example of, say, Ayushman Bharat, saying that that's a health scheme which has not been applied to West Bengal because Mamata Banerjee hates the Prime Minister. Her counter argument is that I have a Swasthya Sathi program which is actually earlier to Ayushman Bharat, and it's a similar program which talks about the health scheme, and therefore we don't need an Ayushman Bharat over here. One of the manifesto points of the BJP is that if we come to power, we are going to implement Ayushman Bharat. Even something as basic and necessary like vaccine has also become a poll issue, and also an issue which has triggered off the centre versus state fights. First were those opposition rule states like Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, who promised free vaccination to all. Then the attack on the centre, which came in by saying that why is the price of vaccine so high? How much will the states suffer? Because the states needs the money if they're going to subsidize or provide free vaccination. Mamata Banerjee made it her poll plank where she said that when we come to power and from 1st May onwards, we are actually going to ensure that vaccination is free for all. BJP adds on to it by saying we are going to do the same. So at the end of the day, you find that even if the crisis, no matter how big it is, how many people are dying and how much complaints are taking place, centre and states, if they belong to two political parties, will continue to fight each other. That's the question I'm asking, and the response I'm getting is it's inevitable. Nothing is going to change. There's a kind of a defeatist response, unfortunately, I'm getting on the social media timeline. They're saying it's a part of a democracy and the federal spirit that both of them actually in crisis times needs to forget what the political differences are, and they all need to come together. In reality, unfortunately, it doesn't work so. History shows it. Quick examples are drawn to America as well, which of course is a conglomeration of states. But over there, the situation was different. No one was waiting for the president to announce a universal vaccination program. The states on their own decided to do so. Here in India, the centre often has that power or under the Disaster Management Act to take over in part of critical issues. And that's what the state governments are accusing the centre of. That you decide how many vaccines we'll get, you decide how much of stock we'll get, and therefore our requirements, our concerns are never ever addressed. One hopes by the time this edition comes out, things would change. One hopes that all political parties and netas understand that some things are beyond party politics. Some things are beyond centre and state. Federal spirit, yes, that's a part of our constitution, but more importantly, isn't the nation which should come first.